Ladies and gentlemen, it is less than a month until college football, and you know what that means. Today we're going to do another SEC video, of course. But today we're going to be ranking all 14 starting SEC quarterbacks this upcoming season from worst to best. So without further ado, let's get into it. At number 14, I have A.J. Swann in Vanderbilt. Last year, he went 115 for 198, 58.1 completion percentage, 1,274 passing yards, 10 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and negative 76 rushing yards. So it looks like this is more of a pocket passer quarterback. He's playing for Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt's not really known in producing great quarterbacks, maybe except for one. But other than that, I don't think that this guy is going to produce much. But this is only his sophomore season, so he is far from playing in his Swan song. You know what I mean? Haha, get it? Because his name's Swan. Seriously, his best game last year was against Ole Miss, where he threw for 281 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. He seems promising. If he's playing up against mediocre to bad defenses. But other than that, bottom of the barrel compared to the rest of the SEC. I'm not calling him a bad player one bit, but I'd like to see this guy prove me wrong. And then up next at number 13, I have the Florida Gators' Graham Mertz. He came in from Wisconsin after playing there for a couple of seasons. You know, he was a really highly touted high school quarterback. But he really just came into an offense that really didn't suit him well. So hopefully when he comes into Florida, I think he's got like 2 seasons at Florida maybe. This is his junior season. Hopefully he can have a good leadership role. You know, him being older than a lot of the people. But last season when he was at Wisconsin, he did go 164 for 286, 57% passing rating with 2,136 passing yards, 19 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions. He was sacked 23 times and a negative 40 yards rushing. So this is obviously a guy who's not going to run the ball, obviously. Wisconsin wasn't a good team last year. So, to be honest, this guy, I would put him lower than A.J. Swann, but only due to the fact that this guy's a junior and he had a better season last year. But this was also in the Big Ten and not the SEC. So we'll just have to see with this season. You know, this guy could absolutely prove everybody wrong. He could prove everybody right. He could just be somewhere in the middle and just be mediocre. But as of right now, I'm putting Graham Mertz right at number 13 in the SEC. And then up next at number 12, I have a new quarterback coming in for Texas A&M, Conor Weigman. I'm not 100% sure on that. He did play in 5 games last season. He did replace Max Johnson when he was injured against LSU. He went 73 for 132, no picks, but 8 touchdowns and 896 yards, with his longest pass being 54 yards at a 55% completion rating. That's not bad, especially when you see the fact that he was 12.3 average per pass and 179 per game, given the fact that he was a backup for most of the season and did play a little bit. But playing for a mediocre, bad SEC team as Texas A&M was last year, this is not bad stats at all. I think that Texas A&M will do better this year. And Conor Weigman, however you pronounce it, is going to be able to lead them to greatness. You know, this guy is a sophomore. He's 6'3", 215 pounds. He looks like a cool guy. Hopefully, he could do some good things for that team. He also did get 97 rushing yards last season, which is not bad for playing 5 games. An average of almost 4 per carry. It's a lot better than the other quarterbacks in this list so far, the other two, Mertz and Swann, but I have Weigman at number 12. And then at number 11, I have Robbie Ashford out of Auburn, the sophomore quarterback from Hoover, Alabama. He's 6'3", 218. Last season with Auburn, he went 123 for 250, had a completion rating of 49.2, 1,613 yards, but then 6.5 average per pass, 7 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. He was sacked 24 times. Now, this was obviously, for the majority of it, under a terrible head coach in Brian Harsin. Auburn really was not a good team last year until Coach Cadillac came into the mix as the interim head coach. I do think Robbie Ashford's going to play a lot better because I believe this was his freshman season last year and this is his sophomore year this season. Going 7 touchdowns and 7 interceptions is not great, although his rushing stats really make up for that. 153 carries for 710 yards for 4.6 average per carry, then 7 rushing touchdowns. I really think that makes up for it. Auburn's obviously probably going to play more of a heavy rushing attack as they kind of did last season. So I really do have high expectations in a dual threat quarterback for Auburn, especially in being 6'3", 218, as it says here on ESPN. So I have Robbie Ashford at number 11. And then up next, I have Brady Cook out of Missouri last season. He played all 13 games, went 247 for 382, 7 picks, 2,724 yards, 14 touchdowns, with a 65% completion, and 11 yards per pass, and 209.5 yards per game. He did play a little bit in 2011. He did only throw for 345 yards, or not 2011, 2021. This guy, I feel like, is going to be even better this season. He's a junior this year. Had a lot of play time last year. I feel like this guy is going to be one of the more underrated quarterbacks in the SEC, in my honest opinion. But I do have him ranked just at number 10, just based off of his stats and how long he's been at Missouri. But other than that, he also did have 585 rushing yards last season with 6 rushing touchdowns and 4.2 average per run, which is also not anything to scoff at. The rushing stats are not as good as Robbie Ashford's was last year, but the passing stats are way better. So that's more important as a quarterback, is passing other than running, because you're a quarterback. Just running is just an addition. Dual threat quarterback is good, but pocket passing is usually where it's at. But other than that, Brady Cook at number 10. And then at number 9, I have Carson Beck coming in as the new quarterback for Georgia. He's been the backup for a couple of years now, I believe. So this is obviously his time to shine. Last season, he didn't play all that much. He did go 26 for 35, which only for 35 passes, which is something like a quarterback could just throw in a game normally. 26 for 35 is great. 310 yards, 4 touchdowns, and no picks, which is really good. Other than that, he did have some decent rushing stats. He really got a lot of them from 2 different games against South Carolina and Vanderbilt. 43 rushing yards, no touchdowns, and just 7 rushing attempts. Just giving by his average stats for everything, I really do have Carson Beck coming in to play really, really good as the starting quarterback. But for this being his first starting season, this is why he's ranked so low. 2024, he'll probably be much higher in my ranking, but for right now, number 9 out of 14. And then up next, we have Jackson Dart, the quarterback for Ole Miss and former quarterback for USC. Last season, he had a really, really decent year, going 226 for 362, 62% completion, 2,974, so he was only just 26 yards away from the 3,000 mark last year. He did go 8.2 average per pass, 20 touchdowns, but the 11 interceptions looked really iffy for him. His longest pass was 72 yards, and he was sacked 14 times. His rushing stats were also really good with 128 carries and 614 yards, 4.8 average, and 1 rushing touchdown. This guy is obviously a really up there, but just compared to the rest of the SEC, he's really just middle of the line. And he's probably gonna, like in the postseason, he's probably gonna end up being around the 5 or 6 ranking. There's still a lot of time to improve, like with picks, getting up a little bit more on the passing yards. Like I said, he was only 26 away from 3,000. But other than that, Jackson Dart at number 8 I think is a very decent ranking for him. Then up next at number 7, we have the North Carolina State transfer Devin Leary coming into Kentucky. Last season, he did go 118 for 193, 4 picks, 11 touchdowns for 1,265 yards. Rushing-wise, he had 1 rushing yard and 3 rushing touchdowns, which I think is really funny to have 1 rushing yard and 3 rushing touchdowns. Kind of reminds you of that one game where Jerome Bettis had that 3 touchdowns and just a couple of carries and 1 yard to show. That's really funny to me. But what's also interesting with Devin Leary is he's been playing college ball since 2018. 2018 was his freshman year, and the guy's only a redshirt junior. Like, that's just really interesting to me. His 2021 season was way better. Of course, 2022 was ended early due to an injury, and 2021 shows his better statistics. He went 283 for 431, 5 picks, 35 touchdowns, and 3,433 yards. Whew! What an incredible season for him. He did have negative 73 rushing yards, so this guy is an obvious pocket passer. Devin Leary being number 7 in the SEC for me is understandable. You know, that's middle ground. He's a really good quarterback coming out of the ACC, coming into the SEC. I also feel like this guy could be either or. He could either be really good, really, I wouldn't say bad, because I don't want to sit here and call any player bad. That's just disrespectful, and I'm not for that. But just ranking him, he could either drop or go high. It's an either or, depending on if he can stay healthy. And I think that's a really respectable ranking. And then up next at number 6, I got Will Rogers from Mississippi State. I think the guy broke the record for the most passing yards in the SEC. I don't know if it's a career or the season. I think he broke one of the records or either got really close. Last season, under Coach Mike Leach, rest in peace, Pirate, he went 415 for 610. 610 passes attempts. 3,974. He was also 26 away from 4,000. An average of 68%. 35 touchdowns to 8 interceptions. He was sacked 24 times. And a negative 165 rushing yards. So this guy is an obvious pocket passer. Last season, he did not have a game with a positive rushing yards except for the bowl game against Illinois where he had plus 7 rushing yards. Now when they played a 2021 season, he had an even better season, throwing for 4,449 yards. And then in 2020, he threw for 1,976 yards. Will Rogers is experienced. He's a great quarterback. He's had great coaches. This guy can really do great. Now, I don't know what Zach Arnett, the new head coach, is going to do when if he changes up the playbooks. I know he was a defensive guy, but you never know with new offensive coordinators coming in. But I think number 6 is really, really good for Will Rogers, and I really hope he does great this season. And then up next at number 5, we have the sophomore quarterback Jalen Milroe from the University of Alabama. Last season, he played a couple of games. He played the Texas A&M game and a little bit of the Arkansas game and a little bit of the others. He played a little bit against Utah State, but he did replace an injured Bryce Young. He did go 31 for 53, 297 yards, 5 touchdowns, 3 picks. A lot of people say he's the reason that Texas A&M almost beat Bama last season, and I kind of agree, but when you're under Nick Saban, you're going to be a good quarterback. I mean, a good bit of them haven't transferred over to the NFL well. A.J. McCarron, John Parker Wilson, blah, blah, blah. But, there's good ones like Tua, Jalen, Mac. And I feel like Jalen and Bryce Young now going to the Panthers. I really think Jalen Milroe is going to be a really, really, really good quarterback this upcoming season. In his 2021 season, he did play a couple of snaps, going 3 for 7, 41 yards, and a touchdown. Other than that, this is his time to shine. This guy is either a make or break story. He's either going to do really great or he's, like I said, I don't want to say really bad, but you know what I mean. But I feel like he's going to be just fine under Nick Saban. I have all the trust in the world for him. I really am excited to see what he does. And then at number 4, I have LSU quarterback Jaden Daniels, the former Sun Devil from Arizona State. Last season, he did go 266 for 388, a 68.6% completion percentage, 2,913 yards. He did go 7.5 average, 17 yards to only 3 picks, which is really good. Like, only 3 picks to 17 touchdowns. Like, that's amazing to me to only throw like that's Aaron Rodgers numbers. Like Aaron Rodgers at his peak in Green Bay rarely threw picks, and that's what kind of Jaden Daniels reminds me of. He's 6'4", 205, and he can also run it on the ground well too. 186 attempts last year for 885 yards for 4.5 average and 11 rushing touchdowns. This guy is a beast. And this is why I think that LSU is going to win the West this season. This guy is just, this guy is a great quarterback, and I'd want him on my team. And I think number 4 is really respectable for Jaden Daniels. And it was really up to Jaden Daniels and this guy that I'm about to talk about when discussing rankings. And then at number 3, I have the senior quarterback Spencer Rattler from South Carolina. Now, he did play 3 seasons at Oklahoma, the 2019, 20, and 2021 season. I remember when he was a really highly touted quarterback for the NFL. I remember a lot of mock drafts in 2021 and 22. Even 23, a lot of people were like saying he's a top first-round pick quarterback. He obviously didn't go into any of those drafts. But I think he's a really magnificent quarterback. His 2020 season was the season that a lot of people talked about being great. In 2020 for Oklahoma, he did go 214 for 317, 3,000 yards, 7 picks, 28 touchdowns. And in 2021, he had a very low season. I think he got benched for somebody else and then transferred to South Carolina last season. Last season, he did go 264, 399, 66% completion percentage, and then 3,026 yards for a 7.6 average, 18 passing touchdowns to 12 picks. So the only really big difference from where he was at his prime is he's thrown almost 2 times more picks and threw almost half of touchdowns that he threw his 2020 season. I really think this season, no matter what, is going to change. Is this guy going to be big in the NFL, or is he going to be a bust? Or is he going to be a later pick and be a star, or is he going to be just I really do think Spencer Rattler deserves to be up here just for how good his 2020 season was and his 2022 comeback year was. And that's why I have him ranked at number 3. That and the fact that he's a senior and he's got a lot of experience. Spencer Rattler, great quarterback. Can't wait to see what he does this upcoming season. And then at number 2, I have Joe Melton III coming out of Tennessee. Now, he has been in college for a while, too. He's been playing since 2018. He played 3 years at Michigan, and now he's played 2 seasons at Tennessee. His best season was his 2020 season with Michigan, where he went 80 for 141 and 1,077 for 7.6 average and 4 touchdowns, 4 picks. But last season, he wasn't a starter. He was the backup for Hendon Hooker. But when he came out, he played really well, and they brought him out a couple of times to play backup or to throw long passes, because this guy has a bazooka of an arm. When I tell you bazooka of an arm, go Google, go on YouTube, do whatever you can, and look at some of his highlights. Now, being able to throw far doesn't always mean you're an accurate passer. He also seems to be a little accurate too, but he can work on that. But with the just mountain of an arm, he's a gunslinger. 6'5", 242 is crazy. But this past season, as the backup, 53 for 82, 64 completion percentage, 971 yards, 12 average per throw, and then 10 touchdowns, no picks, with his longest pass being 64 yards. The quarterback, I think that's the quarterback rating of 204, that being his best season. Rushing wise, last season he did go 18 rushes for 77 yards, which is not bad. But this guy, with this heavy pass attack for Tennessee, will be just absolutely destroy defenses, and I think he deserves that number 2 spot. But there's a reason why he's not number 1. And that number 1 spot goes to KJ Jefferson of the Arkansas Razorbacks. This is a guy who has played 4 seasons at Arkansas, and a lot of people are really excited to see what he does. He is a senior, 6'3", 246. Not only can he pass it, but he can run it. Last season, he did go 204 for 368% completion percentage, 2,648, 8.8 average per pass, 24 touchdowns to only 5 interceptions. Wow. What a year for him. And not only that, but his 2021 season was great too. 198 for 294, 68% or 67% completion percentage, 2,676. So just a tad bit more than 2022, but only by a few more yards. 9.1 average, 21 touchdowns, 4 picks. And on the ground last season, he did go 158 carries for 640 yards, 9 touchdowns, and 4.1 average per rush. This guy is unbelievable. He is the most experienced quarterback out of the 14 in this list. Other than, like, him and Will Rogers, in my opinion, are the most experienced. I guess Spencer Rattler too. But Joe Milton has really had that, like, upfront SEC experience. And KJ Jefferson is just what a player. And I am really excited to see how great he will be this season. He's a great, accurate quarterback. And I mean, he deserves the number 1 spot. But other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed this video where I ranked all 14 SEC quarterbacks. Please let me know if you would like to see me rank other conferences' quarterbacks, or maybe do running back cores, wide receiver cores, defenses, whatever. And other than that, I hope you guys have a great day. Make sure you follow the Twitter and the Instagram in the description below. Like, subscribe, comment, do whatever helps the algorithm, and I'll see you guys later.